Given the Gordian knot of crises that we face these days, we might assume that a discussion of the world would center on those predicaments. But in the context of the Way of Adab, we begin with two unconventional perspectives. The first is the idea that each of us is the world, or more exactly, that for each of us the natural world is experienced through our bodies. In that sense, Earth originates in each of our bodies. Phrases like return to nature suggest that the natural world is out there somewhere, when in fact it's right here in the flesh and processes of our existence. We're actually made of her clay, air, water, and warmth, and doing what she does, breathing, assimilating, eliminating, reproducing, regenerating, and so on. To say, I am the earth, may be truer than we realize. This might seem too obvious to need stating, yet we can be passionately protective about the environment, yet cavalier about our own health, as if they were two completely different realities. Some of us are probably more concerned about climate change than about the harm to our own bodies from over-consuming processed foods, for example. The second, uncommon perspective about the world is that it doesn't actually exist, or more accurately, it exists only as a construct. For a Ukrainian soldier, the world is a bloody, treacherous place. For the AI developer in Silicon Valley, the world is bursting with opportunities and marvels. For the 95-year-old great-grandmother in the hills of Peru, the world is a quiet place, occupied by her cats and an occasional visitor. None of those worlds exist outside the consciousness of those who are living them. Of course, objectively, there is a war raging in Eastern Europe. AI technology is developing rapidly, and a dozen cats are cared for by an old lady in the Peruvian hills. But the subjective realities of the individuals inhabiting those realms are hermetically private. Even on the same battlefield, different realities can coexist. A young, eager patriot fighting a different war than the half-crazed gunner whose family was killed by drones. Inayat Khan refers to this view of the world as Aina Khana, a palace of mirrors, a realm of reflections reflecting reflections. These two ways of seeing the world seem opposed. In the one, the world is an inescapable material existence, an entirely physical experience rooted in our bodies. In the other, the world is an abstraction, not unlike a dream, made up principally of stories, playing in various theaters of human activity. But we can see these two worlds as continuous, not divergent, if we think in terms of vibrations. At the denser end of the spectrum, the world appears to our senses as matter in time and space. At higher frequencies, it shows up in our mind's eye as memories, knowledge, and the parade of characters and events, real or dreamed, passing through our daily lives. Being continuous, both invite the same way of adab, an approach that prioritizes harmony, although with two different objectives. In the natural world, the principle of harmony serves the prime directive of all living organisms, the sustainability and transmission of their DNA. In our physical lives, this directive brings us health, fitness, resilience, adaptability, and so on. In the mind world, consisting largely of what we're paying attention to, The principle of harmony serves the prime directive of life itself: generativity, evolution, expansion. This directive is fulfilled through exploration, inventiveness, and creativity in its varied forms. Let's look at what these two approaches mean practically. Sufi communities often espouse care for the earth and her creatures through an awakened reverence for life. Like charity, this reverence begins at home, in one's own body, because without the inborn somatic wisdom derived from our own physical care and well-being, our environmental concerns and activities will likely be more hopeful than helpful. Adab in relation to the natural world, then, develops as we revere our bodies, not so much as temples of God, but as gardens of life. This is more than an apt metaphor. Like a garden producing food, our bodies generate the energy keeping us alive and manufacture the cellular materials needed for regeneration. The health and productivity of this body garden hinges, to a great extent, on harmony, on the gracious interplay of nutrients, habits, lifestyles, and so on. Harmony, like the garden itself, is a living thing, ever shifting, adapting, discovering new chords, an art learned through experience, practiced in real time. More than a personal skill, harmony is a teacher from whom we can learn the quote-unquote ways of the world. Quite literally understand from the inside how things work in nature. Harmony, at the heart of our relationship with our own corporeal being, will naturally guide our interactions within the organic whole that is the world. Our adab in relation to the palace of mirrors, to the world of people, events, and stories beyond the reach of our senses, is also centered on harmony. But in this realm, harmony serves realization rather than regeneration. This is because it is primarily through our interactions with the world as a construct that we pursue our goals and desires. For example, the professional ambitions of, let's say, an author arise within a particular topography, a conceptual landscape shaped by the outstanding individuals and accomplishments, the history and culture of her field. Most of us have probably experienced the limitations of willpower that sometimes, no matter how hard we try, success evades us in a particular endeavor. Adab enables us to realize our aims not through the force of will, but through harmony. Although you can't always get what you want, and sometimes it may be necessary to resist a particular situation, it is usually more effective to detect latent energies and to work with them. Then we may see more clearly the inflection points at which events can be redirected. In other words, harmony in the palace of mirrors is the elevation of consciousness and responsiveness that enables true creativity. This is not necessarily artistic creativity, but the sensing of hidden potentials, the discovery of new pathways, the delight of fresh perspectives. But while we can perceive the world in terms of these two dimensions of experience, in the end, the world is one. This singularity of being is a central realization on the Sufi path. The Arabic term for this is wadat al-wujud, the unity of presence or existence. As with many esoteric teachings, this phrase cannot be understood intellectually. It must be experienced as the direct reality of the seeker. In that experiential union, these notions are subsumed. Adab and harmony become the same thing, described in the same way as the fluid continuity of awareness, sourced in open-minded acceptance, enlivened by curiosity and creativity, deepened through the refinement of responsiveness. This is the face of love called harmony, through which the way of Adab becomes simply the way of oneness.